stock the bathrooms for you. I'd like to now bring to the stage our final comedian of the evening, who I can only describe as me. What amazes me is that I'm a comedian. This is very far from the career I was supposed to have. As a matter of fact, this is about as far from gastroenterology as you can get. I gave up my plans for medical school on the advice of my psychic, Morty Finkelstein. I've been relying on Morty's advice since I was an undergrad. I went to see him because I was in search of answers when I couldn't get a date. Women don't like to date a guy who has a 28-inch waist and eats like a pig. Morty whipped out his fortune-telling mahjong tiles. He laid them out. 3 cracks, 2 dots. White dragon, green dragon. He said, "Aha, you've been going about this all wrong. You're gay." What a relief. I thought I was going to have to eat less. But it fit. I knew it was true. I'd always wondered why Cubby was my favorite Mouseketeer. I said, "Morty, I've never been gay before. What do I do next?" Morty says, "Go home, tell your parents." I head home. I'm ready. I know what I have to do. I look my father square in the eye. Before I can say anything, he says, "Dan, I know you're shy around girls, so we've arranged a date for you." I figured dating a girl is the kind of thing a guy should do once in his life. My date was waiting in the dining room. She was a nice girl, a very attractive young lady, if you like that sort of thing. We had a pleasant enough date, but she said she wouldn't go out with me again. She doesn't date guys who eat their body weight in pasta. I went back to Morty. I said, "Morty, I couldn't tell them. They set me up on a date. They were thrilled to contribute to my life. What do I do?" Morty says, "Dan, you've got to tell them. You can't let this go any further. Go home and tell them." I head for home. I'm ready. I know what I have to do. I look my father square in the eye and I say, "Dad, would you like to go to the movies?" I take them to a triple feature. La Cage aux Folles, Victor Victoria, and Torch Song Trilogy. I tell them I identify with these movies. My mom shares my enthusiasm and says Julie Andrews is better in this than she was in Sound of Music. My father insists we stop on the way home and buy him a pair of bunny slippers just like Harvey Firestein's. I go back to Morty. I say, "Morty, I tried. I tried." He says, "Dan, what are you, nuts? You took them to the movies." Go home, tell them. I head home. I'm ready. I know what I have to do. I look my father square in the eye, and I say, "Would you like to go to a parade?" I take him to the Gay Pride Parade. My father has 4 pina coladas and lambadas down the street with a drag queen. I go back to Morty. I say, "Morty, they just didn't get the hint." Morty says, "Look, what do you think? You take somebody to the Thanksgiving parade, they think you're a turkey? Enough of this already. You have to tell them, and you have to tell them now. That's it." Okay. I now know this is it. I'm going to tell them, but the setting has to be right. I invite them out for a drink. I take them to the Mine Shaft, an S&M club in West Village. Mom loves leather outfits. My dad wonders why there's not a fun place like this in Teaneck. So it's back to Morty. I say, Morty, I just can't tell them. I can't. Morty holds up his hand. He says, wait. I feel vibrations coming through from the other world. He calls forth the spirit of Sadie Blumberg, lesbian yenta of the Lower East Side. She says, I can see what your problem is already. I have 3 pieces of advice. First, come out at a catered affair. Your mother may not feel like cooking afterwards, and you can always go home with the caterer. Second, your parents may feel that they've done something wrong in raising you. Allow them this moment of guilt. You may never get the pleasure again. And third, make your parents happy, marry a doctor. I said, okay. I decide to go to medical school. Where better to meet eligible doctors? Morty looks into my future and he says, Dan, don't become a doctor. Become a comedian. I said, got to be kidding. Morty says, if I was capable of kidding, I'd be the comedian. If you become a doctor, I see in your future malpractice suits. I see polyester suits. I see white golf shoes. I said, Morty, I went with you on the gay thing, but this is going too far. He says, Dan, very few people have ever not taken my advice, but there was one. Jaime Goldbaum. I said, Jaime Goldbaum, I never heard of him. He says, you see? So now I'm a comedian. And I finally told my parents. You'll be happy to know they're taking it very well, but I just haven't been able to tell them I'm not a doctor. Thank you. It's been a great audience. Again, this is the stand-up comedy experience. If any of you are now inspired and ready to be on stage yourself, many of us were sitting in the audience just a few short months ago. We would love to have you join us. Come and see one of us after the show. I'd like to thank Don't Tell Mama for providing us the space to perform, and Bobby, our gentleman on lights and sound. Special thank you to our coach and manager, without whose wit and wisdom you would have watched an empty stage for the last hour, Steve Rosenfield. I'd like to bring everybody up.